And welcome to the OLLI at SBU Literary Tea Hybrid version for 2022 fall. I'm going to turn it right over to Bob Stone, who is our Arts Committee co-chair.
Okay, first thing, I want to introduce Rhoda Spinner, if you want to feature her. And Rhoda is the founding mother of the literary tea. And if she like, Rhoda, you want to say a few words to let us all in on the history of the literary tea?
Unmute. Well, first of all, I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted that this child that I bore is still growing, and it seems to be, growing exponentially. And I love hearing the things you guys write. It's just wonderful. We started as a very small group. It was a writing group. And one day I thought it would be a good idea if we shared it with other people in the university. So we put together a little magazine, and then it became a thing that we did every semester. And I love doing it. I miss it a lot, and I'm delighted to be invited here today. So thank you all.
Thanks, Rhoda. And we're looking forward to seeing you in person as the future.
In person, oh, wow.
It'll happen. Okay. We're still stumbling along trying to get back to normal. In previous years, we've had dozens of people and a big full booklet, but we're doing our best and it's going to get better. So I want to thank everybody who has contributed, and let's get started with Pat Mallon. Is Pat here?
Pat Mallon, are you on?
I saw her face. I saw her. She was here.
I'm here. Hello.
There she is.
Hey, Pat, would you like to read about life on the canal?
Yes.
Everybody see the literary tea booklet? We can barely hear Pat. Yes.
Okay. Life on the canal.
Pat, it's very hard to hear you.
Speak right into your microphone.
Well, I'm really near my microphone, so I don't understand why. How about now?
Still a little muffled, but. Pat, turn up the volume on your computer.
All right.
This computer, our computer, on your computer right now, Liz.
Okay. Is it better?
Better.
Oh,
I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm doing the best I can here. All right, let's see.
Well, this is page 4, if you want to read along. Okay, go for it.
Okay. Life on the canal. It's morning here now, and all is blessedly quiet as I look out onto the water. The wind is south-southwest, which I can tell from my neighbor's brave flag. Friends who have stayed with me overnight have commented on the peace and the silence, so different from the hubbub of the city they left. Occasionally, geese honk overhead or gulls cry as they sweep across the sky. Fish jump out of the water. Mallards and swans glide by noiselessly. Terns wheel and plummet down to catch fish on the fly. The terns are my favorite. They are so aerodynamically perfect as they dive like white-winged darts. Cats prowl the dock, sniffing under the boardwalk, hoping to capture a muskrat. Even in winter, songbirds trill a good morning to me, and I call out my response, hoping they can sense my intent. Before global warming, when winters were colder, ice would build up on the canal to the depth of 4 inches or more. A neighbor would test the thickness of the ice, and if he deemed it safe, he'd allow the children to play ice hockey. A scalloper whose livelihood depended upon his access to the Great South Bay would break the ice to gain passage out of the canal. He also shrouded his duck boat with reeds and phragmites to provide cover as a duck blind. In summer, there were small bait fish and blue claw crabs to be caught. In fall, before his school day started, our youngest son would be on the dock with his net, hoping to catch a keeper. One day he pulled an eel out of the water, skinned it, cut it in fours, and asked me to cook it for him. I put some oil in a saucepan and dropped the pieces of eel into the pan. To my horror, the pieces twitched as though still alive. I had always enjoyed smoked eel before that day. After it, not so much. We have room for a few boats to tie up along our bulkhead, and back in the day we used to rent out dock space to clammers and pleasure boaters. Now we allow friends to tie up here without charge. Our own boat sits unused and shrink-wrapped on the ramp. Times have changed. A man in a green boat motors past on his way to the open bay. He comes back soon after. This happens every day, sometimes twice. Where does he go? Why does he come back so soon? These are unanswered questions. Because of boat traffic, much of the wildlife rarely comes to visit me. I seldom see gray herons, kingfishers, and white egrets anymore. The marshes and reeds across the canal have been replaced by houses. In one of them lives my good friend Kathy. After work on a hot August day, she and I would jump into the canal, meet in the middle, and with rubber tires around us, chat until we cooled off. Then, refreshed, we'd paddle back to our homes to make dinner. My husband constructed our outdoor bar in such a way that our guests could enjoy a view of the water from their chairs. He built me a kitchen outside so we could cook, bake, and barbecue while being part of the conversation. His hospitality was legendary. My chair faces the west. Tonight's sunset features cloud striations of peach, blue, and pearl gray as the sun descends. Armed with the memory of this beautiful day on the canal, I await tomorrow with optimism, serenity, and thankfulness. The end.
That was very nice. I think you
That was absolutely beautiful,
had serenity.
beautiful.
Very nice remembrance.
Thank you.
We will read it over again and treasure it. Next, we have Terrence Burke. Is Terrence here, there, or anywhere?
Yes,
There.
I'm here.
Oil in the bottle. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm interested in that first reading. This kind of matches it in some ways. So it's called A Clam in a Bottle. And standing in my flat-bottom boat, I could feel each clam dislodged from the sand as I pulled my iron rake across the floor of the bay. My hands felt their vibrations through the T-handle and long aluminum pole. All had to be set just right. The precise length of my pole according to the depth of the water, the stiffness of overlapping pole sections according to whether the wind pushed my boat with or against the current, and the length of line for the drag anchor according to the speed of the boat's drift. When all was set just right, the teeth of the rake combed the bay bottom with the least resistance, producing a rhythmic cha-ching vibration. One moment, the cha-chings suddenly changed to cha-chunk, cha-clunk. I knew it was not a rock. The bay bottom at this location was only sand and silt with some eelgrass. With a few rapid pulls, I brought the rake closer to the side of the boat, then quickly flipped it over to keep the clams in its basket, and hand over hand pulled the rake to the surface, dumping its contents into a metal wire basket. Along with a few clams and some eelgrass was a bottle that appeared to be very old. It had a thick glass of greenish tint with imperfections of embedded air bubbles. The top had a chunky neck that would have held a cork. The bottom was rounded so it could not stand upright. Around its base were embossed the names of some cities in Ireland, including Dublin and Cork. Possibly it was brought across the ocean by an immigrant from Ireland sometime during the previous century. Especially surprising was the empty shell of a fully grown clam inside. It was a species no longer extant in the bay, a relic from a time past when the ecology of the bay was different. In its larval stage, it would have looked like a tiny translucent butterfly drifting in the currents. The currents serendipitously swept the larva into the bottle, where it formed its shell and lived its life safe from predators. As I examined it, my heart yearned to know the person whose hand tossed the bottle into the bay, likely someone from the land of my ancestors. From his or her hand to mine, it connected us over a span of more than 100 years. Two souls from two different lifetimes taking hold of the same bottle, each in our own time. In the time between, the quiet clam lived its placid life inside.
That was a very nice close-up shot. We saw Pat looking out onto the bay, and now we're out at the bay, seeing an incident, an experience that Terrence had with this clam in the bottle. Very nice. Thank you so much.
Terry, I loved it, Terry. This is Pat.
I loved yours too, Pat.
I loved yours. Okay.
Yeah, they really, did you plan it to write these together?
No, but maybe someday we'll meet.
I think they're both now published, so they now are living together in eternity. Jane Cash,
Okay, I'm just going to take a sip of water.
share that with us, please.
Okay. Growing up half Jewish, I thought the whole world was Jewish. In the Bronx, where I spent a quarter of my life, nearly everyone was Jewish. My father was. One of my two grandmothers was. There was not one, but two kosher butchers on the main block near my house. At PS 64 on Jewish holidays, there were only 50 kids out of a usual attendance of 800. I went to my grandma Goldie's third floor walk-up apartment every Friday to celebrate the Sabbath. My sister and I often accompanied her to the live kosher chicken market, where she picked out the unfortunate victim, which was to become the centerpiece of the Sabbath meal. Grandma Goldie also prepared gefilte fish and matzo ball soup from scratch and lit the Sabbath candles. I don't remember any of the words of blessing, but to this day, I use her recipe for garlic dill pickles. In those days, people wanted to be real Americans and spoke little about the life they left behind in the old country. Grandma Goldie came over by boat through Ellis Island with two of her sons, one of whom was said to have been 13 pounds at birth as compared to a sack of potatoes. Her other two sons, including my father, were born in the US. As unthinkable as it is to me now, she never saw her parents again after she left. My grandfather, Itzik, whose name is memorialized in my middle name, Isabel, died falling off a ladder while painting houses. He left his wife with 4 small children to manage on her own. My favorite part of the day as a child was walking around the corner to the iron stairs of the Jerome Avenue elevated train to meet my father as he returned from work. I waited impatiently as each train roared over my head. I would have covered my ears, but I usually had a 5-cent sour pickle in each hand. The one with a small bite was for me. The one for my father was still whole. Both were published from the pickle man whose smelly, waist-high barrels were filled with cucumbers in various states of decomposition. Iris, Rebecca, Harriet, and Deborah were my friends. Not a Christian among them. I was the only shiksa at the bar mitzvah of my friend Stephen Cohen, much to the chagrin of his mother. Sometimes I rebelled against this atmosphere. At Christmas, my sister and I boldly set up a nativity set, lights and all, in the large front floor bedroom window of my apartment. On the high holy days, when everyone paraded in the streets dressed in their finest, I incurred some disdainful looks when I dressed in dungarees. I thought Grandma Goldie would always be there. Sadly, she moved to Florida when I was 10 years old. I saw her rarely after that. She is seated in the front row of my wedding picture with her nylon stockings rolled up to her knees. Her last visit was soon after my first child was born. Grandma made her famous matzo ball soup, which gave my Irish husband a heartburn that he never forgot. She also washed the floors in my kitchen and then put newspapers down immediately, leaving newsprint on the beige tiles. First communion, confirmation, and years of after-school religious instruction could not get the Jewish out of me. My friend Linda tells me that I am the most Jewish Catholic person she has ever known. People routinely wish me Shana Tova, Happy New Year, in the fall on Rosh Hashanah. Ironically, or perhaps understandably, 2 of my 3 children converted to Judaism, despite having been raised as practicing Catholics. 5 of my granddaughters are Jewish as well. All had their bat mitzvahs. At 46, my son was bar mitzvahed too. My father and Grandma Goldie would be so proud.
I think many of us have had this experience being of mixed origin that a lot of New York City people are. So thank you for sharing this.
You're welcome.
Beautiful.
Very nice, Jean.
Thank
Jane, I
you.
loved it. I loved it.
Your grandma was my grandma.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Made her own gefilte fish.
Yes, that's amazing.
Joe Cohen, is he
He's here.
here? Joe, can you tell us about no percipient witnesses, the death of Rabbi Meir Kahane?
Sure. First, I want to say to Jane, I really enjoyed your piece, and I share with you a Bronx birth. I lived most of my life in the Bronx, and I have very special feelings. Even though I've been on Long Island since 1983, I still consider the Bronx my home.
And I do too. When people ask me, where are you from? I always say New York City, even though I've lived on Long Island since 1967. You can't get the Bronx out of us either.
Or
Absolutely.
Brooklyn. Or Brooklyn. Hello.
Or Brooklyn, sorry. Brooklyn was a place where only the Dodgers lived, and I never went there.
That's true.
Okay, let me begin. No percipient witnesses, the death of Rabbi Meir Kahane. Rabbi Meir Kahane was murdered on Monday, November 5th, 1990, in New York City, while speaking at the Marriott East Side Hotel, Lexington Avenue, 48th and 49th Streets. He addressed an otherwise friendly crowd, 70 members of Zionist Emergency Evacuation Rescue Operation, in a second floor conference room. His remarks began at around 7 p.m. for roughly an hour, and he then began taking questions from the audience. A gunman then walked up to a table where Kahane had just sat down and fired at him at point blank range. The gunman fled the hotel on foot, then attempted to commandeer a taxi at gunpoint. A postal police officer from the U.S. Postal Service returned the gunman's fire and brought down and arrested the gunman. Sayyid A. Rabbi Kahane was pronounced dead at nearby Bellevue Hospital at 9:57 p.m. Nosar was charged with Kahane's murder, but was acquitted of such charge. He was convicted on assault and other lesser charges. According to the New York Times, December 23rd, 1991, the alternate juror interviewed after he spoke with other jurors said the doubts arose because the prosecution produced no witness in the 5-week trial who saw the defendant shoot Kahani, a percipient or eyewitness. 3 potential witnesses. I first saw Rabbi Kahani in person as he spoke to students at the Bronx High School of Science. It was the fall of 1970, and Black Power was heady. I was unsure what the reaction of my fellow students would be to this Jewish radical who symbolized never again and had founded the JDL. The rabbi acquitted himself very well, handling all the questions he received. I don't recall any boos, chants, or shouting down. I left the proceeding proud of him and happy to know he stood behind me. I didn't approach the rabbi after his talk. After their own visit to Israel in the summer of 1970, my father's Judaism waxed and he showed God. My parents sent me to Israel summer on kibbutz from June to late August 1973. I next saw Rabbi Kahani at Baruch College in New York City around 1974. I was a junior pursuing my bachelor's degree in accounting. His message to the audience, should I mute myself? I got a phone call. Just bear with me, just bear with me a second, please. I was a junior. Can you hear me? I was a junior pursuing my bachelor's degree in accounting. His message to the audience was that God hadn't put us on this earth just to be accountants. I agreed with his position, but didn't speak to Kahani after his speech. My father was a dedicated supporter and correspondent of Rabbi Kahani beginning after 1970. I remember him proudly showing me personal letters from Kahani thanking him for his generous contributions. Mom and Dad would attend any debates or public appearances by Rabbi Kahani in Riverdale, most notably his March 24th, 1985 debate with Alan Dershowitz. November 1990. At this time, I had been working for a major accounting firm at its 277 Park Avenue location for just under a year. Previously, the firm was based at 787 7th Avenue. 277 Park Avenue has a Lexington Avenue entrance at 48th Street, just opposite the Marriott East Side Hotel. Mom worked for an executive search firm at 200 Park Avenue, 42nd Street. Dad, a self-employed CPA and non-practicing attorney, worked out of my parents' Bronx co-op apartment. Kahani was scheduled to appear at Brandeis Universe on or about November 2nd, 1990. The speech was canceled at the last minute due to security concerns, but the intervention of Dershowitz got the speech reinstated. The speech went on without incident. By this time, another debate between Rabbi Avi Weiss and Kahani was scheduled for Tuesday, November 6th at the Hebrew Institute of Riverdale, HIR. This is the debate my parents planned to attend, but community opposition to Kahani and the related security concerns canceled the debate. Avi Weiss, Avi, was then called a wimp by some supporters on the opposite side. My parents sought word on a rescheduled debate appearance in Riverdale or in New York City. HIR could not or did not provide them with the information that Kahani would in fact speak on November 5th in New York City at a venue that was only short blocks away from my mom and me. Epilogue. Knowing this deep admiration for Kahani and the opportunity for 3 of us to see him together, I am absolutely certain that Dad, Mom, and I would have been at the fateful debate and nearby after his speech when he was killed. I consider the family been spared by heaven from witnessing the tragedy.
Very interesting story. It's something for us to think about, no matter what our views are.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Okay. For Judge Silverstein claims that she is a liar. Could you expand upon that, please? If you are there.
I am. Can you hear me?
All right, speak to us.
Okay. I am a liar. I live my lie every day in a supermarket or in a theater, riding past you on my bicycle or running in a rainstorm, merely walking on a beautiful sunny day or watching a parade. I lie. My biggest lie is when I first meet you. You give me a quick look over, I instantly lie. You stare at me and my lie festers like a canker sore hidden in the furthest corner of my mouth, blazing white, full of pus, a septic lie streaming in my blood. It hurts. I am an imposter, fake or fraudulent. You will reveal your thoughts. You always do. You cut me with your eyes, see the gag twisted across my mouth, lunge to kick my ass. My tongue ties in a bellow of rage, searches for the words of our language for inclusion, some piece from this madness years, decades before your punch lands. It hurts. You say you're a fucking thief. I agree. Land a punch for history's entanglement. You kick me in the gut, my wound recoils. You don't see the ghost shuddering in my veins, flailing not to drown in this maze of toxic lies. You know, I hold no hostilities. I know when the moon is 9/10 full, bloody red in the sky, and a comet falls, when the reeds are blowing, the orange is growing, the goki croaking, the leopard spotting his prey as aardvarks sniff for a meal. Will you stop? Hear the congas drumming, the guitar strumming in my heart, and the flute piercing the sound barrier of a revolution. Will you look at me and smile, wipe centuries of dust from the vestiges of my face, and know that I am Puerto Riqueña? You will hold my hand with the hands of our brethren, those who can see the ghost dancing inside my bloody maze of veins. Push my belly button and delete my lie. We will dance the salsa como una salsa, rich and flavorful, together with the ghosts beneath our skin.
An intense and beautiful piece of work. It really touches us from another direction.
Thank you.
So much for sharing that. Mike Goldberg, are you there? We're gonna look back and see if we find him.
Mike Dover, he usually does come on. He might not
If
be
he's
able-
not with us, we'll hold him, see if he shows up at some point. There it is. We will move on to one of our imaginative colleagues, Len Morano. Please unmute and tell us about.
Okay, as Rhoda Shipper used to say whenever I was about to present, now for something completely different. This is a fictional memoir, I think. I don't think my memory is this good, but this is another boy from the Bronx. It's called Womb with a View. Boy, it's dark in here. Kind of humid and squishy too. How the hell long have I been in here? Must be at least 8 or 9 months. Ever since one of Dad's swimmies made it to shore. There's no one to talk to, but I can hear voices. If one more person decides to place their ear on this wall, I'm going to give them a substantial zest with my little leg. And who is the clown that thinks he should be singing through the wall? And in a language I don't understand. What's O Sole Mio mean anyway? I must say, they feed me pretty good, although some of the early combinations of pickles and ice cream were a bit much. But the pineapple pizza wasn't bad. Oh, I hear a gang of them now discussing what they're going to call me. If it's a girl, we'll call her Antonia or Barbara. I want to shout, hey, check this out. Some of these names are god-awful. For boys, they're down to 2. One for each of my Italian grandfathers, Luigi and Leonardo. Are you kidding me? Do you want me to be mocked in school? Who knows how well I'll be able to fight? Lose those ancient monikers. You want an L name? How about Lance, Landon, or Lincoln? I get it. It's tradition, but this is America, not Italy. Mom and Dad, I hear your logic, but cut me some slack already. Do you really think those old geezers care? Uh-oh, something's going on. This place is rocking and rolling. What am I, in an earthquake? Steady, boy. Oh, here they go again. This has got to stop. I'm getting seasick. Oh, it's quiet again. I hear some lady telling Mom she needs to push. Push what? What am I, in a wheelbarrow? Who is this pushy broad anyway? Here she goes again. Push, Connie, push. Now we're really moving. I'm doing the backstroke without moving my arms. Hey, it just got brighter in here. Now dark again. Now bright, dark, bright, brighter, brighter. Hey, I'm coming out. I hear someone shout, it's a boy. No kidding, Red Ryder. I could have told you that months ago.
Well, as usual, there's us with something to think about in a very humorous way.
Great.
Different viewpoint.
Very, very entertaining, Lynn. Very entertaining.
Funny, Len, very funny.
Now, for the most dreaded, the most dreaded position in a reading is the person who has to read after Len. So, Al Jordan, are you with us?
Yes, it was.
I think Al, there's Al, but he has to speak up. So we.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Hey, it's all yours.
Okay, this is, I just want to preface this by saying that this is one of 3 pieces I wrote describing my, when I was 15, working summers on the New Jersey shore where I lived. It's called Resort Summer. I start with a quote, I just work, I'm Black, I work and I don't bother nobody. That's from Native Son by Richard Wright. In 1960, my family lived in Long Branch, New Jersey, just minutes from the ocean in a neighborhood not listed in the tourist guide. My parents, barely in their 30s with 5 kids, always struggled on a minister's salary. In the best of times, my father was paid about $125 a week. To earn extra money, he became a jack of all trades, even mastered some, house painter, landscaper, and chef owner of a hot dog stand across the street. The church provided a small broken down 3-bedroom parsonage with treacherous crumbly cement stairs leading to a tired see-through wooden porch. At night, every room became a bedroom. I slept on a living room couch. Making ends meet is very difficult when finances are always at loose ends. But my resourceful mother made it look easy. She ironed shirts at home for wealthy folks and handled the family money, a kind of wealth manager. My father could not be trusted. He would give away his last dime to a perfect stranger. All paychecks, including mine, were handed over to her. No one was allowed to touch the black dog-eared notebook that contained her cryptic financial notations. Each week she announced, June, my father's nickname for Junior, these are the only bills I'm paying this week. Being a high-profile person in the community, he needed to know who to avoid each week. Dad, when do I get to keep my paychecks? It was one of those out-of-body experience questions that sounded appropriate in my mind, but leaving my lips was a foolish mistake. The air grew tense. My siblings began to look at the floor, and my mother was poised to referee. With control, calm, and firmness, my father responded, do you see the food you're eating, the clothes you wear, the roof over your head, your haircuts and basketball sneakers? That's your paycheck. The subject never came up again. It was a teaching moment, and my father seized it. With my first paycheck after college, I made a down payment on a brand new Chevy Impala, a gift I handed over to my mother. Some habits are hard to break. Living in a seaside resort town almost guaranteed a summer job. In the summer of 1960, just after my freshman year in high school, with working papers in hand, I found a job as a pot washer in a 5-star restaurant located in the ritzy West End. I loved my job. I was buried deep in the bowels of the restaurant with no one telling me what to do, and I bothered nobody. Happily, I was far from the guests arriving in Cadillacs, accompanied by uniformed drivers with overdone toothy smiles, white gloves, and distinctive black hats. These folks often wore tuxedos, gowns, and expensive jewelry. We were worlds apart, but somehow had an intimate relationship at the dinner table. My pots cooked their expensive gourmet meals. I worked with 3 unforgettable dishwashers, Joe Snow, Tookie, and Crowbait. I never learned their real names and they never volunteered them. They simply called me Son. Joe Snow's nickname was at odds with his blue-black face. He was tall, angular, and fancied himself a ladies' man. Man, you should have seen the chick I was with last night, he would brag. His trademark was conked, shiny, slick hair protected by a tightly tied blue do-rag. Tookie appeared to be the youngest. He was a short, light-skinned dude with a round, cherub face and green eyes. He had an easy smile and talked a lot. Each week, his pay disappeared betting on horses at nearby Monmouth Park. By payday, he was always totally broke. Crowbait, the oldest, was quiet most of the time. I could just sense that luck and opportunity never knocked on his door. Unlike the others, he did not engage in idle chatter. But the quiet man wanted to talk to me. In a thick Southern drawl, he said, "Son, let me tell you why I left my family in Alabama around your age. A cracker smacked my sister because she didn't pay enough respect. Me, I says nothing. I says nothing to him. Keeps my feelings to myself. Hard to do." He then lowered his voice, looked around with a watchful eye and said, "But I bides my time, evil eyes him for days, and one night I stabs him. The only place I heard about up north was Harlem, and that's where I went." His revelation was without anger, fear, or remorse. Stunned, I dared not ask any questions. He said all he wanted me to know. At that moment, he allowed me beyond his protective, hard exterior and into his heart. Indeed, still waters do run deep. My parents instilled a strong work ethic. I arrived early and often worked my days off. These traits were not lost on Jim, the ruddy, overweight, and ever vigilant restaurant manager. Just before Memorial Day, he called me into his office. I noticed a pair of black pants, white shirt, vest, bow tie, and cummerbund, the uniform of a busboy. With pride, Jim said, "Al, this uniform is yours. You've earned a promotion. You make more money and share in the tip pool." "But Jim," I responded respectfully, "I don't know nothing about the dining room or what to do." "Al, don't worry, the others will show you what to do. You start on Monday." He patted me on the shoulder and left the office. Jim was not a civil rights pioneer. He was a pragmatic businessman who respected and rewarded hard work. In a few days, I would become the first and only Black person to work in the dining room. The promotion was not an honor, it was a burden. I did not want it. Why would I want to leave the comfort and kinship with Joe Snow, Tookie, and Crowbait to join a world of uncertainty and suspicion? In a desperate attempt to feel more comfortable in my new role, I tried on the uniform several times and looked in the mirror. Black pants, white shirt, black vest, bow tie, cummerbund, and yes, my Sunday go-to-meeting shoes. Why would I want to look like a butler? At 15 years old, I believe that Jim wanted me to become Rastus, the smiling Black man on the cream of wheat cereal box. That's it.
That was a very touching window into a world that many of us don't know much about. Thank you, Al. That was,
You're welcome. Thank you.
okay, now we move on to Lily Klima. Speak to us. Unmute and speak.
Well, not only do I have to follow Lynn, but I now have to follow Al. This is a difficult task indeed. Thank you. Mine is called You Never Know. The date set for closing on the house was all too soon closing in on me. Under time constraints to sort out and make the rest of my stuff ready for the moving van, stress and pressure persisted. Mom, said my daughter, holding up a Coach bag, are you ever going to use this one again? How many handbags do you need? You never know, I replied. Do you need all these sandals? I've never seen you wear this pair. If you haven't worn anything in 2 years, throw it out. Try on these slacks and dresses. With great reluctance, I tried on the clothes. Sure enough, many no longer fit or were very much out of style. They went into the donation pile. I kept 2 black gowns that still fit and are somewhat fashionable. You never know. Do you want the blue suitcase or the red one? Both. I want both. Mom, get rid of these mismatched mugs, wine and drinking glasses. Do you really need all these vases and knickknacks? That's when my fountain of pent-up frustration erupted. It's always easier to discard someone else's treasures. I can't wait to visit you in Colorado this Christmas and go through your closets to get rid of your stuff. Too tired to cry, we hugged and laughed. In contrast to my daughter, my son insisted I take everything I wanted. Just take it. We can get rid of it later. They both meant well. She, the minimalist, he, the sentimentalist. Boxes taped and labeled, wall hangings wrapped, and furniture loaded onto the truck. We said goodbye to the house and followed the movers to my new apartment. My kids were with me for a week. They unpacked, put things where I wanted, and when order took shape, I relaxed. I could not have made this emotionally and physically exhausting move without them. There are still 22 boxes piled in the walk-in closet in the main bedroom. An additional 45 boxes and bins, including boogie boards, beach chairs, beach umbrella, and of course, suitcases stacked in the 4x4x6 storage cage in the basement of the building. Thanks to my son who organized it, the cage is full. I don't think I can even add a stick of gum. I am within a 10-mile radius of my Long Island friends and much closer to the Stony Brook University, Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and the Paumanok Camera Club. Residents and staff at Jefferson's Ferry Retirement Community are warm and welcoming. Surrounded by my own furniture, I feel cozy and comfortable in my ground floor apartment facing a large pond, which I don't have to maintain. Embraced with fond memories and my husband's spirit, I'm on a journey prepared for new adventures. You never know.
As usual, Lily has inspired us with her change of circumstance and how we deal with it in a very humorous way. So Mel Lance was not able to join us. He's outside knocking on the door trying to get in. We were not successful in letting him into his Zoom meeting. So I'm going to do him the favor of leading his work and having fun on the phone. Remembering events from the past is always a useful way to spend extra time. Something came to mind which transported me back, way back. Now I was in the 40s, living in a small Iowa town. Normally, I ran around with friends on a nice summer day, finding something to do. Mother appeared and instructed me and Sister Bonnie to stick around because we were going to visit Dad's brother and his family on the farm. Sis and I jumped around excitedly. Now we could see our cousins, Marvin and Janice. That was always a happy event. As our old car drove across the bridge over the Turkey River, we studied the water flowing below us. The road was gravel and the tires complained as we made our way out of town. The road turned and passed by the river. Hills were wooded and an occasional field appeared. Finally, Dad turned up the gravel drive and got out to open the gate. Cows roamed around and the gate prevented them from escaping. Ahead, up the hill, the house appeared. There was one more gate to open to get into the yard. Mom and Dad waved to their adult relatives, and we jumped around as our cousins came out the door. Time was spent on the porch, and soon we were ready for lunch. What else could we do? All recent events had been discussed. There was no TV, and the radio only featured news and music. Someone suggested playing the chicken porch game. We were on. Chickens roamed around the farmyard freely and flew to the top of the fence to get inside where we were. Maybe there would be worms and scraps of food they could pick up. The game started when one of us chased the chicken and caught it before it could fly back over the fence. Chickens sleep or roost with their heads under a wing. Our next step was to push the chicken's head under a wing and then rock it from side to side for about a minute. The catcher then walked toward the house and gently placed the sleeper on the porch. When it was time to catch another chicken and place it behind the first, the game was to see how many sleeping chickens could be lined up. Before long, one would wake up, shake its feathers, and stride indignantly back to the yard. In our mind's eye, we could hear the bird complaining. How could they do this to me? What will the others think? That can't happen again. With that off its chest and a few more shakes of feathers, it went back to being a chicken. We didn't much care who won. It was just our way of having fun. That was a neat little story, a little vignette of a boy on the farm. Oh, at the end of the day, there's another. Martin Levinson, are you with us? Okay. It's a cliche, but you'll have to read it at some other point, sooner or later. Rachel, Saris, are you here?
Yeah,
There you
Rochelle,
are. Okay,
but my nickname is Shy, so people know me as Shy, but
okay.
this is one of my stories from my 46 years in nursing. It's a memoir, a story from my memoir. She had not lost her singing voice. Poor Dolores. She had had a stroke recently and could not express herself clearly. She talked gibberish. She came back from minor surgery and beamed when I offered her some apple juice and a piece of pound cake. With no prompting, she began to sing, her sweet voice filling the ambulatory surgery unit. Of course, none of us knew what she was singing, but we hovered over her, urging her on. I asked her son if she had always liked to sing, and he told us she did. Suddenly, one of my colleagues asked her to sing "You Are My Sunshine," and Dolores broke into song, the words not recognizable, but the melody pure and the voice clear and beautiful. For a moment, the tragic outcome of the stroke was forgotten as one intact area of her brain illuminated through her singing voice.
Again, we've seen you open the window for us into experiences that many of us have not had. I'm sure you have plenty of stories like this to share with us. So, looking forward to more. Okay. St. Peter and the Golden Gate, Dan Sherry.
Dan, are you on? No.
Okay. We'll move right along. Yeah. And look who's last. Okay. I'll give you a short selection of, normally about half of this poetry, but it seems today that I am the last man standing when it comes to poetry. Okay. The war in black and white. The cannon's black steel spits its lethal white flash. Walls crumble to ruins in the moon's pallid light. Winter snow falls white on the blackening ash, where blood dries to black and the bones bleach to white. Missiles fly over and soon come to crash, creating false dawn in the darkness of night. Their phosphorus flares claw out to lash innocent faces and rob them of sight. Pledges on paper in black ink are signed by men in starched shirts whose clean hands agree. To ensure that their power and wealth are aligned, they decide who is chained and who will be free. While mothers despair at the moment of birth, bodies in shrouds are returned to the earth. I was kind of inspired by the nasty stuff going on in Europe. So, but let's go back to Lubeck, Maine, which is up on the coast. It's the most easternmost part of the country. In a restaurant at the docks, I was drinking my beer waiting for a lobster roll. I watched people gathering in a park near the water. Silent through the plate glass, they were placing benches and a podium in front of two great slabs of granite. The waitress looked out for a long moment, then told me it was a memorial service for the men who were lost. I thought about what happened to a wife or a mother when the sea took a man. She didn't get a slow ride in the backseat of a black car, didn't get an engraved headstone set on a windy hill. There was only an empty room or a half-cold thing. Maybe a younger brother or child got the room. If she was lucky, she might take in a boarder or go down to the cannery, try to get work on the line. Now, if it's not slack season or she takes an extra shift at the cafe, the waitress brought my lobster roll and started clearing the next table. I'll give you one more. This is the end, and then we come to the edge. So this is a seasonal, little seasonal, called a prose book. Thanksgiving, premonitions. Chief Massasoit visits the Plymouth colony with his finely feathered warriors and marvels as the pilgrims march and fire their guns in what becomes the first Thanksgiving Day parade. And hunters, carefully groomed newscasters, lead the morning news warning. Gangs of rogue turkeys terrorize young mothers. Outrage ensues as men and boys rally to quivering bow. But hearing the shouts, the flock seeks shelter before the onslaught. The men return home in drab and orange, blood smeared, beer filled, laughing louder than necessary. The gatherers, women move through the kitchen and practice rituals, preparing their offering of the headless, footless, hollow hull, amply stuffed with a seductive cargo, fragrant herbs, berries, bread, and oils. The aftermath. Gravy and wine form furious blots across the tablecloth. Cranberry sauce slumps in sanguine clots before the foundered wreck, soon to be salvaged and transformed to rise again in casseroles, chili, and the dreaded turkey soup until its final defeat by the blood of rare steak. So, that's what I attribute it.
That
Great
was
job.
good. That was good, Bob.
Has anybody come on who hasn't read? We had a few people who did not. What?
Is anybody on that hasn't read their piece that would like to?
Okay.
Okay, so we are just.
Great job, everyone.
We're going to share the recording and the booklet in the next OLLI newsletter. So everybody will get a copy of the booklet digitally, and we'll also send out the recording to those that couldn't join.
And we hope next time that we expand back to our previous glory days when Rhoda was in charge. And again, a shout out to Rhoda and Joel, who were instrumental in the early days of the round table and OLLI. Thank you again for being with us.
I would just like to say, if I'm on, can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
unmuted? I want to thank you all for inviting me. I could relate to so many of your poems. I too am a Bronxite. I too have in my storage cubby the same garbage that Lily has, because as Lily says, you never know. Len Ferrano has made me laugh for so many years, and he continues to make me laugh. I loved your work, people, and keep on doing it. And I hope to see you again the next time. Thank you for asking.
And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your work.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Great way to spend some time together. Much appreciated.
Compliments to all the authors.
You got that right. Yours as well.
Thank you,
Looking to
everyone.
see who's here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
All right.
Happy
Give us a
Thanksgiving.
wave. Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.